You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts, Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management, along with Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian and Andrew the Rock Lobster GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back once again. Time for a little bit of the old OB, your bi-weekly source for all things options related. My name is Mark Longo from the optionsinsider.com. I will be your guide for this show and a lot of the other fun coming at you on the network this week. Hope you had a great weekend. Hope you're ready to kick off your trading week in high style with another dose of ye old OB. Remember, like what you hear, this show, anything else on the network, throw a like, a star, a comment. And hey, if you like what we're doing out there, you like what we've been doing it for 17 plus years now, you like the fact that it's we've been putting it out to you pretty much for free all that time, then if you like what you hear, then you like some of our sponsors out there, send them a note. Check out what they have to offer. Supporting the sponsors is probably the best way to help the network at the end of the day. So if there is someone out there you hear on the network that you like, that you think has an offering that you would benefit from, then by all means, check it out and then let them know. That's the best part. They love to hear that you found them on the network. So that's probably one of the best ways you can keep the network rolling on into year 18 and beyond. And of course, if you want to roll on into some additional content beyond what's out there on the regular network, you like a little bit of pro Q&A action, who can blame you? They're awesome. You like a little bit of options oddities after vol views. You don't want your week to end with vol views. Who would? You want to come back for the endless partay that is options oddities. You want to get live access to this, everything else we do. You want to get awesome exclusives like that panel we just did that we put up there for you pro folks, as well as giveaways. Man, we're just giving stuff away left and right. It's coming up already. We got to give away the February crate pretty soon. You folks are costing me money, but you know what? It's fun. We don't mind it. The optionsinsider.com/pro. The place to go to learn more. As we learn who's joining us on this first kickoff episode of the new week, we are joined once again by the rockingest of lobsters, Mr. Andrew GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com, as well as by the uncleest of Mikes, Mr. Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management. I introduce them now, listeners, because it is our kickoff show, which means it's time to kick things off in fun style with a little bit of 80s trivia. Here we go. All right. Let's get to a little bit of trivia action. By the way, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, the tallies, but it is a surprisingly competitive game so far. Part of that due to the fact that Uncle Mike lost his mind the last time we did this 2 weeks ago and just buzzed in before any question was even read. So, all right, I will afford him that opportunity again right now if he so chooses, but I think he has learned his lesson. All right, to this week's out of checking, yep, no buzzes. Okay, here we go. This past week, we had the anniversary of a big deal in the television circles back in the 80s. It is indeed still the most watched non-sporting event in television history. Oh, you got a buzz? All right. Oh, Mr. Rock Lobster.
I couldn't do it fast
He
enough.
has not yet learned how this game works. Well, Uncle Mike, you buzzed in first. Whatever could it possibly be?
I'm going to say the last episode of MASH.
Yes, which is exactly what the Rock Lobster wrote in our chat, listeners. So he gave the answer to Uncle Mike, unwillingly or unwittingly, perhaps. But there we go. You got to write buzz. You just write MASH.
You know what the problem is I like, why didn't I have it queued up and be ready on the return button like TOSAW does? He's a machine for crying out loud.
He's been playing.
Well, the problem was I fat fingered it 2 weeks ago and I got burned doing it by accident.
Yes, it was indeed the farewell episode of MASH entitled Goodbye, Farewell, and Amen. It had 105 million viewers. All the rest of the top 20, again, of all time in television history are all Super Bowls. In fact, this year's Super Bowl came in now at number 1, so it kicked everything down the list. So MASH is actually now not even in the top 10 for the events. It is number 11. But in terms of non-sporting events, it is number 1 still. So not much going to unseat
Swift
that.
Bowl, man. That's pretty that's impressive.
Football is just, I mean, you look at the ratings numbers, you wonder why any other sports league even exists. Like 99 out of the top 100 most viewed things in the last year, all football. It's insane. So, yes. Did you get that, listeners? Were you alive for the finale of MASH? It was a big deal back in the day as we keep on rolling right on into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the Trading Block.
All right, welcome to the Trading Block, the portion of the show where we break down what the heck is trading out there. And, you know, people argue all the time, oh, those kind of numbers for like MASH are impossible now because we have so many other things that are stealing people's attention and the market is fragmented and everyone's not watching these event things anymore. The most recent Super Bowl shows that is not the case. I guess you dangle a little Taylor Swift in front of things, people will watch it. But either way, like, it is possible, just I guess not for a scripted television program any longer. But we shall see. Maybe another Seinfeld finale around. I wonder where Seinfeld is on the list. That's a good question. Good question for the producers. Who actually came up with that question? So good job there, producers. As we roll around the horn and see what's cooking out there today, it's kind of another meandering, kind of lazy start to the trading week, listeners. The market can't really decide what it wants to be. Is it red? Is it green? It's mostly mixed. Just ticked red again in the Dow as we speak. The S&P off not even 0.1%, about 0.08%. The Dow is ticking 0.01%. The NASDAQ green up about 0.18%. And of course, not to be outdone, let's not forget our old friend small caps. They are feeling their oats, up about 0.5%. So once again, the small caps don't give an F what the rest of the market is doing. They're doing their own thing. So today they have decided to be up 0.5%. You know, but we are still kind of in this post-NVIDIA malaise. Everyone's kind of waiting for the next big shoe to drop, the next big market event. Which actually does get us to our question of the week right now. Just went live right before showtime, listeners. We said, hey, with NVIDIA in the rearview mirror, what is the next big in all caps market event that is driving your trading? We gave you the next Fed meeting, next earnings season, next CPI number, maybe not much until the election at the end of the year. Again, if you don't see your specific choice, maybe there's something you're really focused on. We want to hear from you. Hit us up, let us know, reply, DM, questions at theoptionsinsider.com. All that works. And if they're interesting, we shall discuss them on the show. In terms of things that are interesting, though, not a lot interesting in the market right now. That's why we had some trivia fun to kick things off. 1385, that's where VIX was when we kicked off the show. Puts it up a little over 1/3 of a point from where it was on the Thursday episode. VVIX 81, so getting 3 points back from last Thursday. VXX 13 3/4, down about 1/3 of a point. UVXY 7 even, down 0.6 of a point. SVIX 40.7, getting frothy again, up 1.1. We just had our buddy, the once and future Dr. VIX, on VolViews on Friday, and he's been one of the biggest proponents of SVIX that I've known since inception, really. He's been long it, and it's hard to argue. It's been a pretty good trade. He's finally kind of washed his hands of it, at least it seems like for the time being. Which, again, it's hard to argue with that. How much more theoretical upside can we really see out of SVIX. How much can you wring from that VIX stone? We start getting into, 13, 12, and 11. That's probably a good question. We always talk about what is the theoretical downside for VIX. We talk about that a lot. What is the theoretical upside for SVIX? And it has to top out somewhere. So intriguing. Right now, 40.7 up 1.1. And UVIX at a 10.1, down about half a point from the Thursday show. If you want to hear the saga of my fun UVIX puts, then tune in to Options Oddities on the pro side. We had a good time there on Friday after Vol Views. Let's go around the horn. He is our winner of our 80s trivia challenge for this week. Mr. Uncle Mike, if you have any enduring memories of the finale of MASH, I don't know if you were a big MASH guy or not. And then B, what is catching your eye out there in the markets today, sir?
Well, a couple things. First off, it's ironic that you mentioned Seinfeld earlier. I actually got to meet the real Peterman this weekend at a charity event. So I was at a charity event, the annual charity ball for Gigi's Playhouse, a company that has really done a lot for Down syndrome kids. And the host of the event was O'Hurley, the guy that played, I forget the guy's first, John O'Hurley, I think his name is. He played Peterman on Seinfeld.
Yes, he did. That's awesome.
So really nice guy, really cool event, really great cause. In terms of MASH, I used to watch, my dad was a big fan of the show. I used to watch it in reruns. I was actually, I think, in kindergarten when the final episode of MASH came out. So I really didn't get to see too much of it, but I got to watch the reruns. There was a lot of funny parts of it, I thought, and that with where they were. My wife, who's a flight nurse, or who was a flight nurse when we first got married, and that's still in her blood. So like what they would have every year at the annual flight paramedics and flight nurse conventions, they'd always have like there was like a 1 week thing, and then like every year for one night they'd have like a MASH bash to where everyone would dress up like as some character from MASH. So yeah, definitely a little bit of history with MASH. Not a ton, but definitely a lot of funny things. I thought it was funny how they always did mean things to Frank Burns. Everyone, I think, has a Frank Burns in their life of some sort. And what they call him, ferret face, I think. And definitely some funny memories with MASH, that's for sure. But in terms of this marketplace, not a lot happening today in terms of where we are at, kind of flat on the day. So nothing too exciting. We are down slightly in the S&P 500. And then in the bond world, we're down a little bit in the bond world, so some sellers are in there as well. So it's really kind of flat on the day today. The only thing that's really somewhat lighting up my tape, Nvidia's up 1.5%, but that's really not that big a deal. It's Nvidia. I mean, that's a flat day for Nvidia, for crying out loud. Tesla is up almost 4% on the day. It's making a run at the 200 mark again, so we'll see if that can do anything. But for right now, it looks like we're waiting on some type of big event to happen. But I don't really know what the big event might be. At least it's not going to happen today. I think that just we're kind of going back to the wait and see mode, which isn't necessarily a bad thing by any means. I mean, we are still around the all-time highs for the marketplace, but at least for today, not a lot's going on. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Yes, hence our question of the week. What is the next big thing? Everyone's kind of wondering that collectively, it seems like, out there in the market today. Hence the gentle drifting and malaise we're seeing out there in the marketplace out there today. Mr. Rock Lobster, sir, I think you were 38 years old when MASH went off the air, so you might have a little bit stronger recollection than Mr. TOSAW and I. But that said, sir, if you have any MASH thoughts, have at it. And then B, what's catching your eye out there in this kind of general malaise of a market, sir?
I thought something that was kind of interesting today. We have generally a malaisey market, but we also have a couple of the Mag 7 down today. Like Apple is down, kind of testing that. I'm not saying it's at that earnings low yet, but kind of testing things a little. And so I'm kind of curious if some of these bigger cap stocks, Google's getting kind of shellacked over. The only thing I could see is like all the bad press on Gemini Gemini chatbot or whatever, the Gemini AI bot is. So that's been going around, FinTwit today pretty substantially. So there seems to be a little bit of a sell-off in, I guess, the old Mag 7 leaders, but NVIDIA and chips are still going strong. So apparently you can make the chips, but what you do with them is up to you. So that is kind of what I'm seeing. Like, and also I would say, and from a VIX point of view, VIX is only up 10 cents. So on a weekday, on a Monday, that markup is very light. All of the long vol products that I can see, I believe, are down on the day. Not a lot, but they're down. We were laughing yesterday. VXX is at I believe, let me see. I want to make sure I got this right. VXX is at an all-time low right now, I believe. I think the last low was set on the 9th, and that was 1375, and we're a penny away right now. Today, the low was 1372. So VXX has made an all-time low today. Surprise there. So you have some volatility compression. And some of the Mag 7 kind of going down, but everything is being scooped up by chips. I mean, I guess you just buy chips now and you forget about, those Borno cloud storage companies and all that kind of stuff. So I think that is an interesting development with the market. Also, I believe today we have a little action finally in, let me see here. I believe, yes. I thought it was, yeah. And oil stocks are moving a little higher as well. So maybe, just maybe, we're having the whiff of sector rotation. Like we said here before, it's hard for the SPX to rally with Apple down. And we have Apple down today. We have Microsoft down today. And we have Google down today. And the SPX is off $8. So maybe we might see a little bit of market rotation. Now, we've said this before, because if you shorted the Qs last year and bought like the small caps like IWM, and you got taken to the woodshed. And I don't know if it's time for that trade yet. I still would not do it. Even just buying puts in the Qs, it was like, it was. I think there's only really one mark caught one time this last summer where it kind of paid a little bit when they did some Q rebalancing. But other than that, not been the most fun trade. But I mean, you're starting to look at the earning, and Google's below the lows of their earnings right now. So that little rally to 150 kind of disappeared. So I say, if anything, I'd say it's a little bit of churn. It's a churning day, but I'm able to sell. I did sell some of my some SVIX calls out. I'm just like scaling out of things. I scaled out of some VIX puts today. I haven't sold any of my VXX puts. I kind of blew it, not buying more of the 13s or filling the 13s in VIX on Friday. But I think for right now,
you dumping your March, what was it, 14s?
The March 14s, I sold them once I got to a double. And it was mostly just because I owned so much. And so I just took some off there, but I still have some on, but yeah, I still have plenty of contracts. I still, I don't have a fair amount of short vol still. But as far as, I think we could see a 12 handle this week. if this kind of rotation continues, that's what I expect. I expect VIX to be like 1275 or something.
As the proud owner still of some of those 14 puts, I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind that at all. So we shall see out there. Yeah, we're just having this haphazard malaise hitting the market today. Can't really figure out what we're doing. Maybe there is some rotation out there. Maybe it is a little bit of the old guard and the new guard. We'll see that maybe looking at our top 10 today. We'll see if we are still starting to see those days. I mean, it used to be not that long ago. We used to say, what? Oh, Apple's down. The market has to be red, right? And maybe that is now in the rearview mirror. Now the market's like, Apple? What Apple? Does it have the 2 magic letters in it? If it doesn't, we don't give an F. Let's see if the market cares about anything out there today from a volume perspective. And the answer is, it's kind of struggling today out there, listeners. Not really putting up a lot of numbers till we get to the single names. Then we get a little bit of a different story. But out there in the major indices, it is not partying like it's 1999 or what year did we say MASH was? 1983. Yeah, not really doing anything like that. 370,000 contracts on the tape in VIX land today. That is a whole heck, really, of a lot of nothing out there. The ADV is 703, so when you see that has come in quite a bit. That may be indicative that today's not that bad. That's also something we talked about in the vol views on Friday, which for all the noise surrounding NVIDIA last week, is it the new Fed? Is it bigger than the Fed? A lot of our listeners said. Well, from a volume perspective, it really wasn't, at least it come from a volatility volume perspective. Usually, Fed week, we see VIX putting up numbers, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3 million. Nothing like that last week. In fact, the ADV came in. So, yeah, kind of a sleepy snooze fest out there. If there is anything going up out there in VIX, yeah, it's our old 1x5 friend again, the SEP 47 halves. So, yeah, it's now going out to September. They have this on for size in just about every month. Why not add September to the mix? The SEP 22 47 half 1x5, 15,000 by 75,000 times. That's why we have even any volume today. That's 100,000 contracts right there. So take that out of the mix. You're at 270. That sounds more realistic for the kind of light day that it is. Going out to SPY, I'm hard pressed to think of the last time we saw SPY this low at this time of the day, just given the fact that everyone and their mother and their grandmother and their cousin all slinging 0-day fun. It's gotten a little bit of a lift just in the last few minutes. It was at 3.75 million a few minutes ago. It's up to 3.93 million. It's a little bit more respectable. We definitely expect to see SPY over 4 this time of the day, and not quite there yet. The ADV 8.73 in SPY land. The S, same deal. It's been a while since we've seen the SPX this time of the show below 1.75 million, and it's at 1.48 million right now, listeners. The ADV 3.32. So apparently, nobody really cares about 0-day out there today as well. It's kind of one of those days. Everyone's maybe taking a long weekend, taking a bit of a hiatus, waiting for that next shoe to drop. Whatever it is, it's not driving any paper out there. Even our beloved small caps, the machine that just seems like some days is just completely unhinged. Today, it is very hinged, listeners, to the tune of 611,000 contracts. The ADV is 1.41 million, so it isn't that far away from halfway to its ADV, but we've obviously seen small caps much more active this time of the show. And, of course, our old friend, the Qs. We always say it's kind of a weird magic trick the Qs are able to pull off because they're always at about 2.25 million at this time of the show, 2.2, somewhere around there. And they were at 1.96 a few minutes. They just managed to tick 2.02 million right now. So they're slightly over 2, but they're not even at the 2.2 level that they're usually hanging out at. And then they kind of spend the rest of the day lazily getting to their ADV, which is now 3.75. But doesn't seem like they're going to get there either. So at least on the broad index day, you take that crazy 1x5 out of the equation in VIX land, and there is really a whole heck of a lot of nothing going on out there today, listener. Let's go out to single names. Perhaps that will give us some indication of some activity out there today. Is it a banger day? It's actually respectable. I will call it respectable. It's not 150. It's not 350. It's kind of hovering a little bit above halfway point there. It's at 267 right now. That gets us to an old friend we haven't talked about here on the top 10 in a while. This is Robinhood having a good run here post-earnings over the last few weeks out there. They were hanging out at about $10.50 at the start of the month, which is kind of, if you've been following Robinhood, where they've been kind of been hanging out in that roughly 10 to 12 range, seems like forever. And they have now broken out of it. After their earnings, they shot up to about 13 and a half, and they've been trending up again. They got up another, looks like about 60 cents or so today, actually 81 cents now. So about 5.6%, trading 15.30 out there today. So seeing a 15 handle. Got to go back a ways. Let me look back really quickly. Got to go back a ways to see a 15 handle in Robinhood, listeners. Yeah, you got to go all the way back to the heady days of January 14th, 2022. That's the last time we were at about a 15.18. We closed at 15.18 on February 4th of 2022, and that's kind of all she wrote. They've been hanging out in this malaise ever since. I recall what was on Oddities not too long ago. We got run over selling puts. I think it was on the 8 strike or 7.5 strike, something along those lines, which just shows you how far Robinhood could fall when they get out of it and aggressively. But Hood today, 267, 15.30 almost out there. So nice little recovery for Robinhood. Still obviously a long way away from its all-time high, looks like, of about 55 even. So they got a ways to go out there, but a little bit closer now than they were at the start of the month. Number 9, the Amazonians, listeners. They had a good earnings, obviously, but selling off a little bit today, off about $0.25, so kind of a rounding error. Not much going on out there. 174 3/4. Good for number 9 on the list today, 275,000 contracts. Number 8. This is the name we haven't talked about in a while. Popping a little bit today, but other than that, it's been struggling to catch any bids over the last couple of weeks. Listen, this is Rivian, our old friend Rivian. Man, they came for this thing. A week ago, it was $16.20, and then it just fell off a cliff. Obviously, it kind of got lost in the NVIDIA drama last week, listeners, but while NVIDIA was racing to the moon, Rivian was falling back to earth very aggressively. Went from about $15 overnight to about 12 and change, and they kept stepping down to 11 and change, stepped down again to about 10 and a quarter. Seemed like they actually almost broke the 10 handle, 10.05. That was on Friday. That was their low. They've gained back about 60 cents now, up to 10.65 today. But still coming in at number 8, Rivian, 279,000. By the way, Rivian and Amazon kind of linked. Amazon still has a stake in them. So unlike Ford, who divested of all that, remember that was back in the big meme stock madness of Ford. Ford was racing all the way up to 30, close to it. We saw all this crazy upside paper and shows like Options Oddities, even on this show, people buying 25, 30 verticals in Ford, which if you know anything about Ford is kind of nigh on unheard of. And all fell apart after their disastrous breakup with Rivian. Now Amazon feeling some of that pain. They lost about $1 billion last week on their Rivian stake as well. So kind of a rough time for Amazon and Rivian as a result of these weak numbers coming out of Rivian. Number 7, AMD, 310,000 contracts. And the number 7 spot, what are they up to today? I mean, AMD up about 1/3 of a point, trading 176.86. So not exactly a banger day for them. Number 6, this is a newcomer to our top 10 list. This is Palo Alto Networks. If you've been following the saga of this thing, man, they have been all over the place. They sold off from 366 last Tuesday down to about 261, 262. So pretty much 100 handles right off the top there, listeners. Last Wednesday. Then since then, they've had a nice little rebound back up to about 305. So they've gained back 40 odd points of that downside there. So intriguing and good enough for the number 6 spot today. 369,000 contracts. Number 5, it's a day that's all about crypto. Mara popping hard, $4.89, or about almost 21%, trading 28.88. Man, this thing is another untamed beast. I guess we'll dig more into that coming up on the crypto rundown a little bit after this show, listeners. 405,000 contracts on the tape for maybe your new favorite out there. I know Uncle Mike's huge holding. Mara. Can't get enough of it. Number 4, we're just talking about this name. It is Apple. Are we in this new paradigm now? Is Apple kind of getting the cold shoulder a little bit from the market? Certainly from the options market, it seems like it is. Apple, number 4, only 458,000 contracts. Now, day like today, you can maybe forgive it because it's kind of a quiet day anyway. But usually we expect to see Apple higher even in quiet days like this. 180.96 off about $1.50 or about 0.9% on the day. Another day we used to say, man, Apple's red, market's got to be red. And technically the S&P is red now, so maybe following up with some of that old adage, but still, maybe Apple losing a little bit of its luster for you options folks out there. Number 3, it's Alphabet, 564. They're coming for Alphabet today, 137.85, off 611 or about 4.25%. The Rock Lobster just broke down all the drama going on out there for all their expenditures on the AI front. Doesn't seem like they can really materialize any of it yet, but we shall see. Alphabet number 3, 564 on the tape. Number 2, it's NVIDIA. Day that ends in Y now. It's NVIDIA, $797.20, up $9 pretty much exactly, or 1.15%. Good for 721,000. And number 1, the big dog, at least for now, it still is. It is Tesla, 1.51 million contracts on the tape. 199 3/4, up about 7 3/4. A nice little pop today. Back up about 4%. So back threatening the 200 level out there again. Looking here, yeah, I mean, everyone else, all the other EV names are getting slaughtered out there, but Tesla managing to pop. Why? Who knows? Day that ends in Y out there for Tesla. More buyers than sellers, kid. But either way, 1.51 million contracts on the tape for Tesla. If you're looking for a little bit more earnings action, luckily for you, we are not done yet. Today we got Domino's, Pizza, and Zoom, that former pandemic darling. Zoom after the bell today. Tomorrow we got Lowe's and Cracker Barrel. You ever bought one of their super expensive rocking horses? Or I should say their rocking chairs? It's a weird place. They have all this food and then rocking chairs. It's interesting. Macy's and Beyond Meat. Wednesday, we've got AMC. You may have heard of them. Snowflake. Hot darling, then cool, then hot again. Let's see what they are this time. Salesforce and Paramount. That's an interesting one. And then Thursday, we got good old Best Buy and Six Flags and Dell and a few others. So still some names popping off out there. But let's see what's popping off on the unusual activity front, listeners. Yes, it is that time. It is time for the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, everybody, let's get weird. Let's get wild. Perhaps a little whimsical. Mr. Rock Lobster, his next name is one we haven't talked about in a little bit, but we have talked about it before on this show and also on Options Oddities. You ready for a little bit of animal wellness, Mr. Rock Lobster, courtesy of your favorite Elanco Animal Health, ticker symbol ELAN, E-L-A-N, sir?
I believe I am ready. I'm ready to go forward.
All right, let's see what's going on in the world of animal wellness, listeners. Yeah, they are a pet farmer, listeners. They produce all those vastly overpriced medicines you buy for your pets. That's why my pet is a robot vacuum. Cleans up after itself, requires no vaccinations. It's a great pet. Trading $16.44 right now, up about 6 cents today. So not exactly a banger day today for them on the year. Let's see what's been going on in the world of pet wellness. Been a little while since we checked in on them. We've been talking about them for years. I remember looking at some of our stuff right before showtime. We were talking about puts on them back in March of 2022 and stuff. So they kind of been all over the place. A year ago, they were at about $11.59. I said they're $16.42. So a nice little run up, nearly $5 since then. About 42% on the year. Not bad. They came for it shortly thereafter, and they crushed it down to their low for the year of $7.88. That was in May. And then since then, they tried to rally it the first time in August, got up to about $12.62. And then right back down to about $8.81 again on Halloween. And then ever since Halloween, man, this one's been off to the races. It's pretty much doubled, $8.81 and now about $16.42 out there. So it's been naught but upside. I guess they like themselves a little bit of Fed action out there. Let's see. Oh, they sold one of their businesses to Merck. That'll do it. That'll do it. So let's see what we got going on out there, Mr. Rocklock. So, you know, seems like somebody is potentially feeling their oats, Mr. Rock Lobster. Let's see. We got somebody this morning coming in and scooping 5,000 of the October 20s, 2 O's. I said we're at a 1642 right now, listeners, so that would be a pretty sizable run. And for that privilege, they paid $1.15. It's a 42 vol, so they aren't playing around. That's a sizable outlay for a $16.42 stock. This was right after their earnings, so obviously earnings coming out here before the bell today. So they like what they heard, apparently. Now, it could be the flip side, Mr. Rocklab. I don't see it going up as tied. They could have obviously done it with a stock print and just not put it up tied, in which case that'd be a little bit of a different beast. Maybe they're selling their stock and doing this as the old stock replacement. So that would be less bullish, I would think. But on the surface, just on the options side of it, Mr. Rock Lobster, it seems like somebody thinks pet meds are where it's at, sir. What say you?
Well, I tell you that one thing that people will always spend money on is pets.
That's what you and I said when we talked about this stock years ago, and yet it fell out of bed. You know, they killed it. Kind of surprised us.
Isn't this the LONGO? Isn't this based in Ireland? Wow, that's quite a candle today, though. You got to admit, traded $15 this morning, and now it's trading, close to the highs. That ain't nothing.
They're feeling their oats.
October 20 calls for $1. Let's see here, $1.15. I don't think that is 6 months out. I think duration is. I mean, if you're going to buy calls, to be quite honest, out of the money calls, longer duration is the only way to go. unless you know something, like, I guess, what was the thing today that was so funny? It was it ARM, Nancy Pelosi? No, she wasn't buying PANW. I guess she's buying in the money calls in PANW. I think there's like a whole cottage industry around following Nancy Pelosi's stock picks after her NVIDIA home run, at least. I don't know, triple, quadruple, whatever she did. Really, she scored there. But this particular, I don't know. I don't think this is a bad call buy. Relatively low volatility. The option price is within a reasonable statistical reach for that much time. So yeah, I think this is a reasonable purchase. Plus it's up on the day. You buy calls and there's already bid in front. That's usually a good sign something's going to be moving in that direction.
So if I can read between your lines, sir, Nancy Pelosi is buying these calls. Or probably Paul. It's probably Paul. Let's face it.
It's probably Paul. Now there's going to be some kind of animal health legislation that comes down. And I'm sure all of her, I believe this is really, truly, when it really warms the heart, the cackles of my American heart. But I believe this is really, truly the only bipartisan activity that both parties firmly get behind.
Oh, yes. They can all get behind lining their pockets.
Trading of options around names that they sit on committees for in Congress.
Yes.
It's
regular Joes.
It really warms your heart how the Republicans and Democrats can get together and really come up with great trades out of these committee meetings. It really makes me feel good.
Yeah, these otherwise incompetent people.
Like there's hope. There's
on
hope.
Both sides, but they can turn a profit in the market. They're highly skilled in that capacity. I don't know. Let's keep on rolling before we go down a dark, dark rabbit hole, listeners. At the end of the day, it's just equal opportunity bashing of them all. So don't get all your hackles in a twist. Let's go.
I know. You never know. We don't want to. We never want to alienate half of our audience.
Is it getting political if you just bash them all?
She gets the most press lately. I just think I think she's just the best trader, basically. She just picks the best stuff. Maybe it's Paul. Paul's got the touch.
I don't know.
Maybe
She's got a way to go to catch up on Hillary and her cattle futures. That was pretty good too.
That was a good one.
That was one off though. Pelosi's had a longer track.
Exactly. She just did it once.
Yes, that's true. But yes, at the end of the day, we bash them all, listeners. So it's not political if you bash them all equally. All right, let's keep on rolling.
We got a lot of room.
Yeah,
we have a lot of room to bash
to run. Let's keep rolling out here. This is another name you and I kind of bash, Mr. Rock Lobster. When we talked about it a while ago. It's been a while. This is kind of, I guess that's today's theme. Return of old friends that we kind of talked about a while ago and have kind of forgotten about. Remember this one? The Real, that online pawn shop, effectively? You remember this one, Mr. Rock Lobster? We laughed about the name.
Yeah, I want to say so. Yeah, that's like, yes.
Like you see the ticker symbol.
It's coming back in my head.
You see the ticker symbol real, and if you're a 90s guy, you think real player, but nope, real. Online pawn shop. I guess the real. They've been struggling for a while. They have not been very real out here of late. Let's see. Trading $1.54 off 13 cents today. This is another one. They've had a hard time getting out of their own way, listeners. A year ago, let's see. They were at $1.34. They did manage a brief moment in the sun, though, Mr. Rock Lobster. They bid it all the way up to $2.94 back in September. And that was kind of all she wrote, right back down to where we are right now. We have talked about it ago. It's been a while. It's been a while since we checked in on our friends. We got to go all the way back to the May 15th of last year episode, Mr. Rock Lobster. We talked about a call palooza going up out there in the real. In particular, we talked about 3,000, 3,100 of the June 1/2s going up, paper buying those for about 15 cents when the stock was $1.28. And we also saw about 1,000 or so of the May 1/2s going up for about a dime when the stock, again, was around that same price. Turned out the May expiration stock closed at $1.39, so no joy on those. Those were still open. And the June expiration stock closed at $1.60, so still open. They ended up losing about a nickel on those, but could have been a lot worse, obviously. So no real joy, and we haven't really checked in on our friend, the real since then. So let's fast forward to today, Mr. Rock Lobster. What is really real in the real today? It is, once again, this 1/2 strike. People cannot stop tilting at this windmill, sir. Someone scooping 4,977 of these bad boys this morning, paying a whopping 30 cents. So let's see, this is the 178 vol. When we talked about it less than a year ago, it was a 148 vol. So it was still ridiculous, but 30 points lower. And let's see, the stock was 128 and they were buying the 1/2s. Now the stock was $1.57 and they're buying the 1/2. So they're in the money. So that accounts for a little bit higher vol and a little bit more intrinsic value, accounts for that higher price at the end of the day. But a 5,000 lot, Mr. Rock Lobster, pretty much of these 1/2s for 30 cents. They're looking for the real to make another run at maybe $3, sir. What say you?
First off, you got to like it. This also ticks your bell because it's real and it's real. Everything about this is exactly what you like in the name of a ticker.
It is the most real ticker out there, that's for sure.
It is the real and the ticker's real. So there's actually some juice in this option, to be quite honest.
Yeah, a fair amount, I would say.
Yeah, 30 cents on $1.50. I mean, everybody says it's just 30 cents, but it's 30 cents on $1.50 option. So, of course, Alex would be throwing harpoons at this. He's like, just go buy the stock for $1.50. And I kind of would concur with him on that. It just looks kind of pricey. I think, if you think the company is going to do something, just buy the stock for $1.50 and don't have to worry about duration anymore. Yeah, this is the one where I remember about kind of interesting. Like, they have all the Shishi designers on its marketplace. Oh, it's like an online consigned luxury goods. So basically, if I've got my Rolex, I give it to the real, and they, and they sell it for me. Of course, it's my dad's watch, so I would not sell it for him. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. So, yeah, I think the options are very expensive relative. It'd probably be better just to buy the stock, but I mean, they're sitting right there at the price, so it's got a shot.
It has a shot indeed. And we have a shot of hearing Uncle Mike. In fact, a pretty good shot. So let's get to it now. A little bit of the strategy block.
It's time to dispense options, wit, wisdom, and education. It's time for the strategy block.
All right, everybody, it's the moment you've all been waiting for Uncle Mike to come on down from the mountain. Stone tablets and bubble pipe in hand. Now we're going back for that one a little ways. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, what options, wit, and or wisdom do you have in store for us today?
Well, I want to talk today about, well, quite honestly, the magic of options and how wonderful they can be at times. Let's say that you're looking, and this is an example of some things that I'm doing in the quote unquote safer section of the portfolio for some of my clients. Let's say that you want to invest in the bond world, and right now the highest yielding thing in the bond world from a government treasury standpoint would be the 1 to 3 month treasuries annualized yield of roughly 5.5%. And so let's say that the concern about doing that would be is if you have a rally in bonds, you're not going to get to be a part of it. And then a month later, you're going to have to go to a longer term to get any yield, let's say, or any decent yield. And that is if the rate curve normalizes. And I talked about some things that I'm doing to kind of have my cake and eat it too on a previous strategy block. But there's another alternative that you can do if there's a way with which you want to get some a way to have some type of a safer investment, so to speak. And with that, I'm going to bring on Meta. I mean, what can possibly be more safer than that? Well, with what I'm about to say, not much. Now, first off, full disclosure, this is not one of the stocks that I'm doing this with. We do have allocations to Meta in some of our stock portfolios, but this specific strategy, I do not. I'm not recommending this. This is just a random thing that I picked off that I picked maybe 5 minutes before the strategy block. So this may or may not be a good thing, but it did have the options that would match up to what I want to talk about, and that's why I picked it. So let's say that you own Meta, you buy it at, and then when I clicked up this trade, I bought it at 480. I'm sorry, let me see here, 484. If you go out 11 months, excuse me, you can own the stock and then buy the 480 put, meaning roughly $4 of risk for $54. Now, with that, of course, you actually have downside protection, and all the upside. But the problem is that you had to pay for that downside protection. Well, at the same time, what you're able to do is you can sell a 530 covered call against it for $55. And so overall, the trade itself, you're getting a slight credit if you add the covered call, because that's a little bit more than what the cost of the put is. You're actually buying this whole trade for $483.35, meaning that if the market were to stay the exact same, you'll be ahead $1 roughly. Not a big deal, but that's about what it would come out to. So let's examine this. What if the market goes up? What if the market goes down? What if it stays sideways? Well, if it stays sideways, all of the options would expire worthless, and you'd come out ahead roughly $1 because the call was priced a little bit more than the put. Should the market go down, you have downside protection from 480 all the way to 0. And by doing that, if you can lose handle losing $3 on this trade over the course of 11 months, then your risk is roughly 0.6%. Now, what is your potential gain? Well, you have potential upside all the way up to 530. And if you do the math on it real quick, like I did on my calculator before I was doing this segment, you have the potential of a gain of 9.7% over 11 months. So right there, let's say that you're not comfortable with this whole inverted yield curve and you're doing this, that, or the other, and you just want something safe. Well, it's mathematically impossible in this scenario that I mentioned for you to lose more than 0.6% or whatever I said. And you have the potential to gain 9.7% or whatever I had said a second ago. I'm doing this with various stocks and in the safer section of the portfolio with certain clients, just depending on what their risk profile is, what they're looking to do, that type of thing. And the benefit of this is, quite frankly, it's risk reward. If you own a corporate bond, you don't have downside protection on that. If you own this, yes, it's Meta. And once again, I'm not doing this with Meta, but yes, it is Meta, and you may or may not like the stock. But the point is that's a risk reward that if you're looking for something different in the safer section of your portfolio, things like this are what I like. And there's a lot of stocks out there like that right now. The reason is because of row and to some extent call put skew. And that is my strategy block for today.
All right, listeners, and now it's time for us to keep on rolling and go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody. Welcome to Around the Block, the portion of the show where we tell you what we're keeping an eye on until our next episode on Thursday. We were joined once again by our buddy, the Flow Master. And right now, I mentioned at the start of the show, our question of the week. Said with NVIDIA in the rearview mirror, what is the next big market event? We put big in all caps. We want big stuff. That is driving your trading. Gave you the next Fed meeting, next earnings season. Not much, I should say, until election 2024 or the next CPI number. And again, if you don't see your choice in there, hit us up with your choice. And right now, it was almost literally tied coming into the start of this segment. Now it has ticked. The next CPI number is now taking it 57.1%, followed by the next Fed meeting behind it, 42.9%. Agree, disagree, get over there at options. Just went live. It'll be live as you're listening to the podcast as well. So make your voice heard out there. In terms of last week's making your voice heard, we said, hey, does everybody really think this NVIDIA thing is about as big of a deal as it seems? And it turns out the market thought so. You folks thought so as well. You guys said, yes, NVIDIA is very important. It leads the market, 59.1%. Not much. It's overhyped, 22.7%. That argument kind of got hurt last week. And then 18.2% saying as much as other earnings announcements out there. So a lot to unpack. Let's go around the horn. It is the name of the segment, Around the Block. Let's find out what is the next big market event that everyone is paying attention to. Let's go to the Rock Lobster first, sir. How would you answer our poll? What is the next big event on your radar, sir?
Well, I mean, I'm looking at, since the Fed has turned every economic data point into a earnings cycle. We got some Atlanta Fed GDP on Wednesday, some consumer confidence. On Tuesday. Let me see. I'm just going through my list here. So Wednesday we have GDP. We have a core PCE prices. So that is kind of a big one relative. That might, push or pull either way, depending on whether they think rates are going to change. Again, more of the PCE price indexes and the core PCE, all these deflators are coming out this week. So, there is some decent economic news. It wasn't the biggies. Purchasing Managers Index on Friday. So I think, you have some, and you got consumer inflation. So this is I would say, like the B team on the inflation data. It could swing things a little bit one way or the other, but it's not what I would call a hugely critical one, not like they're talking about rates. So that's anyway, just to see how we kind of get through the week, basically. Since there's really no NVIDIA, I thought, I wrote last weekend, it was like kind of the peak of the earnings season. And after that, everything is just kind of a bit of a deflation. So, we'll see where we go from there.
Mr. Uncle Mike, same question for you, sir. What are you keeping an eye on? What's the next big event that is impacting your portfolio?
I mean, I suppose CPI could be one, but as low of a news cycle as I could say here, I will go with the next big event is time decay coming up in the first and second week of March. Those are my big events coming up. That's
pretty exciting, sir. I don't know if we could top that. We might have to just end the show on that uplifting, upbeat note, listeners. Luckily, that music means we have come to the end of today's episode. But before we go, let's go back around the horn. Let's go out to the man who's just watching literally time decay tick away. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, where should folks go if they want to join you in this fun partay of watching time decay?
Well, I mean, I try and give myself a break at times and watch some paint dry, too.
Equally exciting.
I try and balance it. But head over to stcharleswealth.com. Set up an appointment. Would love to have a conversation with any of our listeners. And also follow me on Twitter at Mike TOSAW, TOSAW.
There he is, at Mike TOSAW on the old Twitter. And he's Option Vol on the old Twitter, all one word as well. Join him for some cranky musings in between episodes of this program. Mr. Rock Lobster, if folks want some Option Pit goodness, where should they go? What should they do?
Yeah, go to optionpit.com. I manage, oh my gosh, we even have a free product on Mondays if you want to see how we walk through trade selection. That's the ticker highlight show on Mondays at 10:30. You can check it out. We do a show on Friday mornings on the Tradier Hub. Alicia, Mark, and myself do a free show. Walking through trades, levels, charts, how to put option trades together. I do a little education thing there for about 10 minutes per segment. Check all that out. And also, we got Portillo's earnings tomorrow. How TOSAW didn't know this, I couldn't possibly know. But I'm just hoping the USA is hungry right now because I'm a little too long Portillo's right now.
Some might say those earnings are pretty juicy. I guess we shall find out.
I hope they are.
Hopefully it's not it's the dry
I'm using that 4-letter word.
Yes. A little bit of PTLO. We'll keep an eye on that one, listeners. That is going to do it for us here on the old OB. But don't worry. Don't you fret. You want a little more options goodness in your life? Maybe with a little bit of crypto flair? We got you covered coming up in a little bit after this show with the Crypto Rundown. I'll be joined by some great guests in the old crypto hot seat this week. Then back again with our usual array of content until we're back again with the Flow Master on Thursday. Another episode of the Option Block. Stay safe out there, everybody.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions@theoptionsinsider.com.